Very good morning, friends. We are entering to the fourth day on our SEM and PE course. In yesterday's class, we were dealing about JIT, just-in-time concepts, and we were looking at the features of JIT in chapter number 3. So, I told you yesterday while we were closing, there is some small portions left out in JIT which we need to do now. Then we have to do a couple of problems, case studies in JIT also from the institute study material before we move to the next chapter. Okay, so we will continue with JIT first. Okay, so in the last class we were discussing about the features of JIT and we stopped with the feature of changes required in the workforce. Okay, where we saw what are the problems that we are going to see with respect to the workforce, a shift in the responsibility where earlier in the traditional system each worker was responsible for individual machineries, whereas when it comes to JIT they are going to be responsible for a group of machines which we call as Kanban system or cells manufacturing. We have seen that cell manufacturing. Okay, so when it comes to JIT, the workforce have to be more empowered, due to which they need to be given more training. Okay, and they will have higher responsibilities, accountability, and it will not be a monotonous job. So all those things we saw yesterday. Now, in the features of JIT itself, we have few more features. Next, you can write the heading alterations required in the supporting accounting systems. Alterations required in the supporting accounting system. Okay, so whenever we deploy JIT, there has to be a lot of adjustments or changes required for the accounting system also to support the implementation of JIT. We are going to see what are the major such changes that are required for the supporting accounting systems. Okay, now first of all, why we require a change to the accounting system? Why changes required? There will be lot of small or large changes that will be required to the accounting system, but we will be concentrating on the major aspects where we need to make some drastic or phenomenal changes. Okay, in that, the first situation will be, there will be, once we implement JIT, there will be large number of invoices that will be coming from the suppliers. Why is it is so? It is so because in JIT we are going to purchase the materials or inputs as per the order. Whenever you get an order from the customer, you are ordering for the material. Okay, so as the number of orders increases, you will have to buy the material separately each time. So naturally what will happen, the number of times you have to place a purchase order and the number of times you need to take the delivery of the inputs, and also the purchase invoices will be high depending upon the number of customers' orders. Normally the customers' orders will be very high. Okay, the numbers will be high as compared to the purchase, because normally all organizations would like to have a centralized bulk purchase for the inputs. But in JIT, we are not looking for any bulk purchases because we don't have any facility to store or to do the other processing. Okay, so we will buy the inputs as and when it is required. Automatically, the number of purchases will be huge. Okay, so naturally what will happen? It will not be feasible for the accounting department to process each invoice individually because the number is huge. Okay, earlier it used to be a bulk purchase, so the number of purchases will be limited, so you can process one by one. But here, since the numbers are huge, you can't do single processing. Okay, that is one thing. Then second problem which accounting department has to face is the materials will be delivered. The materials will be delivered directly to the production floor. Directly to the production floor. You know what is a production floor? Production floor refers to the place where the production happens. Okay, the premises where the machinery is fitted. Okay, so it is delivered directly to the production floor, and even sometimes the delivery will be to the machine itself sometimes. That is the level of accuracy we are looking at in JIT. Okay, in that case, there is no gate pass, there is no quality checking, there is no quantity checking, nothing is done. The material will be dispatched by the supplier to the premises of the machinery directly. So there is no documents generated to confirm the receipt of material. Okay, because if we do if we want to do that such confirmations for receipt and all, there will be some delay. We don't want to have that delay because the production is as per the order. The party is waiting, so we can't even wait a minute in between. It should come promptly. The material should come promptly. By the time the material reaches, the machine should be ready. You give the material directly to the machine. The production should start. Okay, so there is no quality checking, nothing. So there is no document to confirm the receipt of the material. Okay, without confirming the receipt of the material, how will you process the invoice? These are the two major issues that the accounting team, or accounting team in the sense it will be production plus the accounting, or purchase team plus the accounting team will face. Okay, now what is the solutions? Okay, so how to resolve it? Okay, the first solution would be for problem number A, or problem large number of invoices. What could be the solution? The solution could be to process the payments of supplier periodically, consolidating all invoices sent during such period. Okay, what is this? The materials will be dispatched, the invoices will be sent one by one. But you will ask the supplier, see, we are not going to process this invoices one by one. You give us a consolidated invoice at the end of the month. Okay, we will process that only. So the payments and the invoice processing will happen only once in a period, and the period will be either weekly or half year, monthly or bi-weekly, whatever be the periodicity that you choose. After negotiating with the supplier, then only you will process the invoices. That is the solution for the first problem. Now, what is the second problem? The second problem is you don't have any mechanism to ensure the receipt of materials. Very important problem, right? Because that is the primary objective of any inspection team or any purchase department or any accounts department. You need to confirm the receipt of materials before you process the invoices. But here that is not possible. So in JIT, if you are following JIT, what is the way out? The way out is the entity should backwork the quantity of materials consumed. Materials consumed based on what? Actual production. Okay. You know how much you have produced for a month. If you have produced 100 kgs of the output, you know how much inputs are required. Okay. And what all inputs will be required, that also you know. You have input output ratio. Based on that input output ratio, based on the quantity of output, you can find out, you can back work the quantity of the input. Okay, so if you have manufactured 100 units of output, then you would have consumed this much number of input. That is how you compute the quantity of inputs. Okay, and in JIT, to avoid confusions, you have to buy one material only from one particular supplier. You can't have multiple suppliers for a single item. If you are purchasing certain raw material, it should be purchased from one supplier only. So, whatever be the quantity of that particular material you have consumed, that will be from material one supplier itself, and he would have supplied this. Okay, see, this is a very complicated system which will operate correctly only if you have the correct processes and systems. Okay, but once we implement JIT, this is going to give you lot of savings. And don't think that it is only a hypothetical situation. There are many big companies who are going for JIT at least in a partial or in a full-fledged manner. For example, Unilever. Unilever is a global giant which is following JIT. Okay, they are following JIT, no inventory. Are you following? So JIT is being followed by many companies who are very cost conscious and very quality conscious. But to implement JIT, you need to make drastic changes in your entire system. Otherwise, it is not easy to handle. Okay, so that is the resolution or solution for the second problem. Okay, you backwork the quantity of the materials consumed based on the output manufactured. Okay, so for which you have to have a collaboration between the production department. Why production department? To get the quantity of materials produced or quantity of outputs produced. Okay, then you need to have the collaboration of estimation department. Okay, why estimation department? You need to find out based on the output, you need to find out the quantity of inputs required. And also you have a collaboration with purchase department. Why collaboration with the purchase department? See, if you are purchased, there will be purchase order. Okay, so you have to cross check with the purchase order. Okay, so plus who has to take the lead role? The lead role will be taken by the accounting department to coordinate all these three departments. Is it clear? That is with respect to the materials. Okay, now another feature of JIT is no more, something which is related to the previous point which we saw, no more invoices, okay, from the suppliers. Suppliers need not send any invoices in JIT. Why? Because in JIT, everything depends upon your output. Okay, if you have produced 1,000 units of a particular product, then based on the input output ratio, based on your efficiency ratio and everything, you can confirm that you have utilized, let us say, 1,500 units of A. Okay, so if the output is not clearly, then any input can be easily calculated. So that means you don't require an invoice from the supplier. your team will find out how much you have manufactured, based on which they will generate how much quantities of the inputs you have consumed, based on which your team itself will generate the amount payable to the supplier. Okay, and again this method also happens in big companies like L&T. L&T follows this method for many of their contracts. Okay, then you have JRC, Johnson's Controls Research organizations, like that is main shipbuilding company in the India, which is following this no more invoices. They will find out how much we have consumed and the payment will be processed. Is it clear? So this is the last feature of JIT. Okay, so with this we have completed the features of JIT. Now the prerequisites of JIT. Okay, if you want to implement JIT, what all are the prerequisites? You may get a case study in JIT. That is why I am taking this topic in detail. Or somewhere you will have to use it as a recommendation. So you need to have a proper understanding. That's all. This is not a difficult topic as such, but you need to understand what is JIT and what are the features and how you implement it in the actual scenarios. Okay, prerequisites of JIT. If you want to implement JIT, what all are the prerequisites? Okay, one, low variety of goods. Low variety of goods, both inputs as well as outputs. If you want to implement JIT correctly, smoothly, the number of items of inputs you use and number of items of output you produce should be less. If you are using, say, 1000 components as inputs and 1000 units you are producing, unless you are organizing it properly, it will be very difficult to implement JIT. Because JIT itself is complicated and you require sophisticated technology. And whereas if the number is more, then tracking would be very difficult. Okay, so ideally, JIT will be suitable in a situation where the number of input materials and the number of output materials are low, comparatively low. Okay, then second prerequisite is vendor reliability. Vendor or supplier, you can call it a supplier also. Supplier reliability, very important, because everything you are dependent upon the supplier. If the supplier is not reliable, if the supplier fails to keep his promises that the materials will be delivered promptly, then you are in trouble, because you are not producing unless you get the customer. The customer is not going to wait for you more than his normal time, even if you are following JIT or traditional system, whether you have stock or whatever be your scenario, your condition, the customer did not bother. So it is your utmost requirement to meet the customer demands, to provide the goods and services in the time. Okay, whether you follow JIT or not, that is your internal thing. So you need to make proper arrangements to ensure that once the customer has put forward an order for a particular product, he is getting that particular that particular good as delivered within the normal time. Okay, so for this, the supplier reliability is very, 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 very important. Okay, so important. Then next one, good communications. I told you yesterday itself how important is communication in JIT, because you don't have time to reconfirm. If your communication has some flaws, what will happen? Your customer ordered 100 quantities, but that order did not reach your production department soon. What will happen? There will be a delay. That should not happen. The moment the customer keeps or puts an order, promptly that requirement should reach the concerned departments and the action should go to the suppliers. Okay, so the communication between the supplier as well as the customer should be smooth and effective. Okay, so smooth, fast and effective communication. And we saw that this communication should be through electronic media. If it is through the physical model, what is the trouble? The trouble will be it will take a lot of time to move the information. So there should be an electronic intervention, electronic medium, which is used to transmit the communication between the customer and your entity and the supplier. Okay, then next, demand stability. Yes, very important. Demand stability. See, JIT will be successful only if your demand is stable. Why so? If your demand is stable, that you know that every month you require something around 10,000 kgs of output. Approximately, this 10,000 may become 10,500 or 9,500. That doesn't make any difference. But you know on an average your demand for every month is 10,000 kgs. So if you know that, what you can do, you can tell your supplier, see, every month we require this much quantities. So we can't say that we will buy, whether we will buy it on 1st of that month or 10th of that month or 20th of that month. We can't guarantee that. Whenever we give the order, you should be ready to supply approximately about this 10,000 kgs of input. So if we know the demand, if we can able to estimate the demand without much variance, then what is the advantage? You can negotiate with your suppliers, okay, and ensure that he is able to provide the goods on time. Now, if the demand is not stable, what will happen? What will happen? For first month, it was 10,000. For second month, it was only 1,000. Okay, third month, it shot up to 30,000 demand. Okay, if it is fluctuating like anything, if it is not stable, then the problem will come. Today you purchased 10,000 kgs. Okay, so the supplier know, okay, that guy is going to purchase 10,000 kgs of input every month from me. So I need to keep it ready. But very next month, you ordered only for how much? 1,000 kgs. So the guy, your supplier was ready, was thinking that you will purchase 10,000 quantities. So he had made plans for procuring 10,000 quantities. But finally, you ended up in buying only 1,000 kgs. So next month what will happen? That fellow will be managing with say 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever, thinking that you will purchase only 1,000. But all of a sudden your demand shoot up to 30,000 units. Okay, so that fellow, your supply will not be able to deliver it. Okay, so even when you say that you are going to get the goods from your supplier promptly, your supplier should be having a judgment about what would be your requirement for a particular month. Otherwise, when you give the order unexpectedly, your supplier may not be in a position to deliver the goods on time within the with the required quality. Okay, so if you want to implement JIT successfully, the first condition, the next one condition would be your demand for your product should be stable. Okay, then next, what is next? Prerequisite. One prerequisite is total quality management. Total quality management, TQM. Why TQM is important? TQM looks for near perfection. Okay, near 100% quality is what is the objective of TQM. If you have TQM implemented, then you don't have to worry about any abnormal losses. You don't have to worry about any wastage. You don't have to worry about any quality issues. The moment you get the goods, you can put it in your production or manufacturing system, which has already been quality checked. So you don't have to worry about any defects in between or waste in between. So the moment the input is fed in, you will get the output in the natural course without any issues. So if you want to implement JIT properly, beforehand you should have implemented TQM. Okay, next, other prerequisite is defect-free materials. Defect-free materials. Again, very, very important, because you are not doing an inspection for materials. It's not because you don't want to have an inspection, but the problem is if you keep time for inspection, the delivery to the customer will be affected. Okay, there will be delay in delivery to the customer. So you don't have any time to spare. The goods are coming, you start the production. So that means you need to ensure that the goods which your suppliers are sending are defect free or foolproof. Okay, next, importance of preventive maintenance. Preventive maintenance. Why if entity or a factory need to have a preventive maintenance? Because preventive maintenance are helpful to avoid unnecessary or unexpected breakdowns. Okay, if you are not giving sufficient emphasis for preventive maintenance for your machineries and your factory, what will happen? All of a sudden, there is a customer requirement. Okay, you don't have any stock. Okay, you got the materials from the supplier. You fed it into the manufacturing system or production system. In between, what happens is, in between your product, your machines are showing some problems. Okay, some flows due to which you need to stop the entire production. What will happen? You will not be able to deliver the goods to the supplier, goods to the customer on time. Okay, and there will be piling up of materials, and the entire production facility will be shut down. Okay, so this will affect your entire JIT system. So if you want to go with JIT system, you need to take proper emphasis on preventive maintenance so that unnecessary delays on account of breakdown of the machineries or downtime of the machineries can be avoided. It's not that 100% avoidance. There may be some circumstances which could not be avoided where you will have to stop the machine. But the number of times such instances comes will be very, 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 very less. So only once in a blue moon you will face such situations because we are planned for such unexpected failures or downtime. Okay, so preventive maintenance is very important. For this, you can consider what? TPM or total productive maintenance. Okay, so these are the major prerequisites of having a JIT system. Okay, now another small topic, you can write the heading impact of JIT. Impact of JIT. What is the impact on JIT? The impact of JIT, I am going to divide it into three. Okay, one is on the waste cost. Waste cost. What do you mean by waste cost? The cost due to waste. We saw the meaning of waste in lean system yesterday. Okay, so waste is not just some material scraps. Okay, it relates it. Waste is a comprehensive system or comprehensive concept. Okay, which includes any unwanted activity. Okay, and we have discussed that in detail. I'm not getting into that. Okay, so waste cost. Then the second one is overhead cost. Overhead cost, and the third is product prices. So the impact of JIT on the waste cost, then overhead cost, and the product prices. Okay, now with respect to the waste cost, the focus of JIT itself is to eliminate waste completely on a continuous basis. Okay, then only JIT will be successful. So if you want to implement JIT, you are avoiding all wastes. No inventory holding, no lags, then no issues with the machines. There is no delay in delivery of the goods from the suppliers, and there is no delay in delivery of goods to the customers. Everything is like a smooth functioning system. Okay, so waste should be eliminated completely on a continual basis. Okay, now which all are the waste which we are trying to avoid? Waste, there could be waste of assets. Okay, you don't want to waste any asset. Then waste of time. Waste of time should be avoided, and then waste of inventory. Okay, so focus on elimination. focus on elimination of these costs. So what you can do, what is the outcome? If you eliminate this, then there will be a sharp reduction. Okay, sharp reduction in waste cost. So if you implement JIT, then the waste cost will reduce sharply. Is it clear? That is the impact on waste cost. Now the impact on overhead cost. Okay, now JIT looks for eliminating various unwanted bar non-value added overhead activities. Okay, or various non-value added activities contributing to various costs also. Okay, so for example, you are eliminating material handling, the material directly comes, the truck driver himself will dump the goods into the machine. That is a hypothetical situation. So there is zero material handling. That is a hypothetical situation in JIT. Okay, then you are avoiding material handling, then you are avoiding inspection of goods. Then what? There is low downtime or zero downtime. Okay, then reduced maintenance, then what else? Then you have reduction in storage space, storage or warehouse. Okay, then what else? All these things will result in reduction in overhead cost. Okay, so JIT will help you to reduce the waste cost, and also it will help to reduce the overhead cost. Okay, now product prices. What happens in terms of product prices? See, once you implement JIT, then you are looking forward to have complete assurance of quality. Okay, because you have implemented TQM, you are implementing other quality control measures, then you are eliminating 100% waste. Okay, so the product or outcome what you are getting will be of superior quality. That has to be assured. Then only this will work. If there is the quality is compromised, what will happen? In between the product, some defects might come, where you will end up in not delivering the goods to the customer on time. So naturally, what will happen? It will affect your reputation. Your business will be lost. Okay, so if you want to implement it, everything has to be smooth. Quality should be ensured, and there will not be any issues in between the production process, and you are able to deliver the goods, quality goods to the customers on time. Okay, so if there is complete assurance of quality, what will happen to the product prices? The customers will be ready to pay what? Premium prices for superior quality goods. So naturally, what you can do, you can increase the product prices, charge a premium for your quality. That is one option. Now suppose if the customers are not ready to pay premium, that means they are price conscious. If they are price conscious. What will happen? They are price conscious. They are not ready to. You provide good quality, but we are not ready to pay you anything more. That happens in homogeneous products. Okay, one product which you may be handling, say some sort of, let us take the case of some wheat or rice for that case. There is 100% quality assured rice. Okay, and generally the market rate of 1 kilo of rice, let us take it to be 40 per kg. You say that you have all this, you are just in time, you have your TQM, everything, and the rice which is coming to you is of best quality. Okay, it may be true also, but if you charge 70 rupees per kg, then your suppliers are, your customers are not going to buy that. Okay, so the point is, even if you provide superior quality goods, sometimes your customers will be conscious about the price and they will not be ready to pay, or they will not be willing to pay premium prices. So in such situations, what will happen? You will not be able to increase your prices or charge a premium prices, but indirectly you will be able to attract customers more due to your superior quality and develop a brand image. Okay, two words: develop a brand image and attract customers more. Is it clear? Okay, so these are the impact of JIT. Okay, now next topic is, before moving to the next topic, we have to see some problems or case studies in JIT. Okay, I think you can take the material. We can take page number 17. In 17, question number 3.7. Okay. Read the question once. Okay. Now we will read the question once again together. KPL manufactures and sells one product called KEIA. So you have a company called KPL which is manufacturing KEIA. Okay. The managing director is not happy with its current purchasing and protection system. There has been considerable discussion at the corporate level just as to use of JIT system for KEI. So what is the proposal? The proposal is to implement JIT in KPL. Okay, as per the opinion of the managing director of KPL, just in time is a pull system which responds to the demand, in contrast to a push system in which stocks act as a buffers between the different elements of the system, such as purchasing, production, and sales. But by using just-in-time system, it is possible to reduce the carrying cost as well as other overheads. So what is the objective? The objective is to reduce the carrying cost and the associated overheads. We saw in the previous session that whenever you implement just in time, you can have huge savings in terms of waste, then overheads, and also in terms of increasing in prices. Okay, so definitely if you implement JIT, you can reduce the carrying cost of the materials, and you can also have savings on account of various overheads. KPL is dependent on contractual labor, which has efficiency of 95%. So there is some information regarding the labor. What is the efficiency? (95% efficiency) for its production. The labor has to be paid for a minimum of 4,000 hours per month, to which they produce 3,800 standard hours. So efficiency 95. So they are paid for 4,000 hours, for which they get how much? 3,800. So how did you get the efficiency? 4,000 into 95 will be 3,800. Okay, so this is equal to 3,800 divided by okay, right. Now going further, the labor has to be paid for minimum 4,000 hours per month, to which they produce 3,800 standard hours. Now for availing the services of labor above 4,000 hours in a month, KPL has to pay an overtime rate which is 45% premium to the normal hourly rate of 110 per hour. So normal hourly rate is equal to how much? 110 per hour. Rupees 110 per hour. And overtime rate is equal to 110 into how much extra you need to pay? 45% premium. So 110 into 145%. So that will give you how much? 110 into 145% will be rupees 159.50. Okay, then what else? For avoiding this overtime payment, KPL in its current production and purchase plan utilizes full available normal working hours, so that higher inventory levels in the month of lower demand would be able to meet the sales of month with a higher demand level. Okay, so in order to avoid this premium overtime payable to the laborers, what the company is doing, the demand for the products is not that consistent. There are in certain months the demand is lower, certain months it is higher. Okay, so in the months where the demand is lower, they use the balance available time for stocking up the finished goods. Okay, so in the months where the demand is lower, the laborers will work in the normal fashion. So naturally, there will be some stocks or inventory which will be used for meeting the higher demands for the other months. Okay, so that is the current strategy that is followed by the company right now. Okay, next, KPL has determined that the cost of holding inventory is rupees 70 per month for each standard hour of output that is held in inventory. Okay, so the cost of holding cost of inventory holding is given to be rupees 70 per month. For what? Is it for the goods? No. They have expressed it in terms of standard hour of output that is held in inventory. Rupees 70 per month for each standard hour. Okay, standard hour of output that is held in inventory. What is the significance of this information? I will give you a small example on this. Suppose for producing 1 unit, you require 2 labor hours. Okay, so this is the standard. Okay, so therefore standard hours included in 1 unit of inventory, how much? It will be 2. So if your actual inventory is, let us say, actual inventory is, let us say, 100 units, the standard hours included in this 100 units will be how much? 100. Total standard hours included in inventory will be 100 into 2, that is 200 standard hours. And they say that for each standard hour the cost of holding is 70. So total cost will be 200 into 70. Okay, this is only an example. Okay, so you understood how to do this calculation when they say that the cost of inventory holding is rupees 70 per month for each standard hour of output. Am I right? Okay, right. So that is the information. Now KPL has forecast the demand for its products for the first 6 months of 2019 as follows. They have given the month-wise forecasted demand. Okay, and here again you need to be careful. Here what is given as the demand in standard hours. Okay, the demand in standard hours. Okay, now following other information is also given. All other production costs are either fixed or are not driven by the labor hours worked. Okay, the production and sales occur evenly during each month, and at present there is no stock at the end of December 2018. Okay, so the information given is from Jan 2019. So December 18 means it is the opening, the previous month. So that means there is no opening stock. Clear? Okay, right. Then next, the labor are to be paid for their minimum contracted hours in each month, respective of any purchase and production. What is the minimum contracted hours? 4,000. So whatever happens, whether you utilize or not, they need to be paid minimum for they need to be paid for minimum 4,000 standard hours. And as a chief accountant, you are required to comment on the managing director's view. So what you are doing here is you have two systems. You have two systems. One is the traditional system. Traditional system and JIT. Don't think that the JIT is only for material handling. No, it is a comprehensive system which touches upon lot of other factors also. Because once you implement JIT, of course, even though it is directly linked to the materials, indirectly it ensures quality in all the operations, and it streamlines the entire production and delivery process, because JIT is all about concerned with preparing the materials from the suppliers and delivering the finished goods to the customers. So till then JIT is impacted. Okay, so traditional system and JIT, we are having a cost benefit analysis. Okay, so there has to be a comparison between these two, based on which you need to take the decision. Clear? Okay, so we will start doing the problem. Okay, so we have understood the problem. First, what you have to do, you can write the analysis of both traditional system of material handling, and the modern system of just in time has to be done on the basis of associated costs and benefits of each system. Clear? So we have to compute both the costs and benefits associated with each of these systems. Okay, so we will start. Okay, first what you have to do, you have to find out the inventory holding cost under the existing system. Okay, so working note 1, statement of inventory holding cost. Inventory holding cost under the existing system. Under the existing system, we have Jan, Feb, March, April, May, then June. Okay. Right. What we are doing is, if in the current system you have inventory, though there is no opening inventory, you have inventory holding in the current system. Okay, because you are using the available hours to produce maximum number of units so that the demands in high demand months could be met by excess production in the months where the demand is low. Okay, so you start with opening balance. Opening inventory. What could be the opening inventory? At the beginning of Jan, it is nil. Okay, then add production. How do you get the production? Is the production given? Yes, production is given to be how much? They say that 3,800 standard hours is available in a month. Okay, 3,800 standard hours. See, please be careful. The entire information here given here is in terms of standard hours. It is not in terms of number of units. The demand is given to be in standard hours, and also the production capacity is given in standard hours. You can produce 3,800 standard hours in a month, and the demand is given in standard hours. Are you following? Okay. So here the production will be, in every month we will be producing 3,800, because that much standard hours we have. Production in equivalent standard hours. Okay, then less what? The demand for the month. Again, the demand is also given in equivalent standard hours. Okay, what is the demand? 3150, 3760. 3760, then 4060, 3350, 3350, then 3650 and 4830. Okay, so opening plus production minus demand will give you what? Closing inventory. This is in equivalent standard hours. In equivalent standard hours. Okay, all the calculation is in equivalent standard hours. Even the costs are given in terms of the standard hours. So the first one is 3800 you have produced, but you had a demand of 3150. So resulting in closing inventory of 650. And the 650 will become the opening for Feb. So in Feb 650 opening is available. With that you produce 3800. So total availability was 450 minus the demand was 3760. So your inventory is 670. Here opening inventory will be 670. So 670 plus 3800 minus 4060 will give you 410. And again your opening inventory will be 410 in the month of April. So 410 plus you have 3800 minus 3350, you will get 860. Then you have an opening inventory of 860 in the month of May. 860 plus 3800 minus 3650 will give you 1010 closing inventory. 1010. Is there any mistakes? Just check here. 650 in the month of Feb. 650 plus 3800 minus 3760 is 690. Okay, some small error has come in here. It is not 670, this is 690 in the month of Feb. So naturally the opening and closing for all other months will change. Okay, 690. So here it needs to be 690. 690 plus 3800 minus 4060. This will be 430 here. Here opening will be 430. 430 plus 3800 minus 3350 will be 880 here. Then here also 880. 880 plus 3800 minus 3650 will be 1030, which will be the opening inventory here. Then 1030 plus 3800, that is 4830 minus 4830. So closing inventory at the end of June will be nil. So this is the inventory position. Now what you have to do, you need to find out the inventory holding cost. Okay, what is the inventory holding cost? Inventory holding cost is given to be rupees 70 per standard hour. Inventory holding cost is per standard hour. See, the inventory holding cost is also given in terms of standard hours. So that is 70. Okay, now here there is a small concept which you need to keep in mind. See, in the question they say, if you take the question, KPO has determined that the cost of holding inventory is rupees 70 per month for each standard hour of output that is held in inventory. Now tell me, this 70 whether it is to be applied on closing inventory for that particular month or on the opening inventory. If you see, for the month of Jan, the opening inventory was 0, whereas on the closing you have 650. Okay, so it is only on the closing you have 650. Okay, whereas in the opening it was 0. So when you say that when you compute the inventory holding cost for the month of Jan, you should multiply inventory with this inventory holding cost of rupees 70. But which inventory you should take? Should you take the opening or closing? Okay, if you apply it on the opening is 0. So ultimately what happens? There is no inventory holding cost. And if you apply it on the closing, which is also not fair because the closing inventory is the inventory position at the end of that particular month only. You can't say that that much inventory was there throughout the month. Okay, so what to do? When you have such a confusion, you have to take an assumption that the inventory position throughout the month was on an average half of the opening plus closing. Okay, so and in the question also they are saying that somewhere they are saying that the production is uniform or even throughout the month. What was it? The production and sales occur evenly during each month, and at present there is no stock. So the production and sales occur evenly during each month. So what you can do, you can find out the average inventory for that particular month. Okay, so next will be average. How to compute the average inventory? Average inventory is equal to opening inventory plus closing inventory divided by 2. Okay, you have for Jan, Feb, March, April, May, June. Okay, for the month of Jan, opening is 0, closing is 650, so divided by 2 will be 325. Then for the month of Feb, opening was how much? 650, then plus closing is 690, so divided by 2 will be 670. Okay, for the month of March, opening was 690, then closing was 430, so divided by 2 will be 560. Similarly, for the month of April, it is 430 plus 880 divided by 2, that is 880 divided by 2 will be 655. For the month of May, we have 880, then plus 1030, 1910 is the total, divided by 2 will give you 955. For the month of June, opening was 1030 plus closing was 0, so divided by 2 will be 515. Okay, therefore inventory holding cost was how much? First 325 into 70, that is 22,750. Next is 670 into 70, 46,900. 560 into 70, 39,200. Then 655 into 70, 45,850. 955 into 70, that is 66,850. 515 into 70, 36,050. Okay, so total inventory holding cost will be 22,750 plus 46,900 plus 39,200 plus then 45,850 plus then 66,850 plus 36,050. So all taken together, the total inventory cost in the first the existing system will be rupees 2,57,600. 257,600. Is it clear? Okay. So that is the current existing system. Now you need to find out what would be the position under the JIT. Okay. So position in JIT. If you go for JIT, what's happening? The difference will be you will produce only as per the demand. As per the demand. Okay. In other words, production for each of these months will be equal to the demand forecasted. So net effect, therefore, there will be no inventory or no inventory holding cost. So whatever cost we calculated in the above working, that is rupees 2,57,600, that will not be incurred. Is it clear? Okay. However, what is the damage if you are going to have a JIT system? You are producing only that much, whatever is required for you, satisfying your demand. So naturally, what will happen? There is no opening stock. There is no closing stock. Okay. If you see the demand pattern, in certain months, the demand is very high. The demand is very high compared to the other months. So, in certain months where the demand is very high, to satisfy that demand, you have to increase your production, and for that, you have to use the overtime hours. That is one thing. Second thing, in case of months where the demand is low, there may be you are producing only in accordance with your demand. So the laborers who has to be paid at an average of 3,800 standard hours or 4,000 standard hours per month, they will be idle also at times. Okay, so the utilization of the employees or the laborers will not be optimum in the months where there is low demand, and there will be overutilization leading to overtime and higher wage rates in the months where the demand is higher. Okay, so this is one effect, and the second effect is, okay, since there is no inventory, the entity will have to utilize overtime labor hours to meet what? To meet excess demand in certain months. Okay. For this, the entity will incur additional overtime charges. Okay. Also, in the months where the demand is low, there will be underutilization of laborers, and they shall be paid at the committed rates. committed rates. Okay, now we will compute how much additional cost the company is incurring on account of this. We are computing only the excess labor charges payable, not hours. Excess labor charges payable. In the existing system, all the laborers will be paid for 4,000 hours in a month. So that is the standard. That will be paid now. 4,000 into what is their normal rate into 110. That is the normal rate. Okay. So they have to be paid at that rate for all the months. But when you come to the JIT, that 4,000 will be paid anyhow. So there is no change up to that. Okay, they have to be in the previous system also they have to be paid for 4,000 standard hours. Here also they should be paid for 4,000 standard hours. So here what is the difference? The difference is in certain months you may have to employ overtime hours for which you have to make the additional payment. So the only additional cost that the company is incurring is on account of what? The overtime. Okay, because the other one is a committed labor cost where you may be paying committed labor cost of 4,000 standard hours even if there is underutilization. You may be paying, but that cost will be incurred in both the systems also. So that is not a relevant cost, that need not be considered. Is it clear? So here for the purpose of as far as the JIT is concerned, the only additional cost that you are going to incur is only with respect to the overtime wages. Okay. So you have to compute the overtime. So how to compute that? You have Jan, Feb, March, April, May, June. Okay. Demand. Demand is 3150, 3760, 4060, 3350, 3650, then 4,830. Okay, then production as per demand 3150, 3760, 4060, 3350, 3650, 4830. Therefore, inventory is nil. Okay, so inventory carrying cost nil. No inventory, so there is no inventory carrying cost. Okay, now what you have to do? You need to find out how many overtime hours will be there. Now, what is the standard working hours that will be available? It is 3,800. Even though you are paying for 4,000, you will get only 3,800 productive hours. Okay, so normal production possible will be how much? 3,800, 3,800, 3,800, 3,800, 3,800, 3,000. Maximum you can produce 3,800 standard hours in a particular period. Okay, therefore, yes, what happens is overtime production required. Again, in terms of standard hours. If you take the first month, how many hours are available? 3,800. How much you need to produce? 3,150. So will there be any overtime? No, no overtime. Okay. Next month, 3,800 hours available, but you are producing only 3,760. Will there be any overtime? Again, no. Here also 3,800 available, but you have to produce how much? 4,060. So will there be any overtime? Yes, there will be overtime, and the overtime will be the difference of 260. Am I right? And similarly here, 3,800 vis-a-vis 3,350, no overtime. 3,800 vis-a-vis 3,650, again no overtime. But here 3,800, then production required is 4,830. So 1,030 difference, where it will lead to overtime of 1,030. Okay, now this is the overtime hours. Overtime production required. Okay, so this many overtime production hours is required. Now the problem is, as far as the standard data is concerned, if you want to get 3,800 production hours, how many hours you need to pay? You need to pay for 4,000 hours. Okay. Or in other words, if you pay for 4,000 hours only, you will get 3,800. So in order to get 260 standard hours, productive standard hours, you will have to pay for much more than that. Is it clear? Okay. So what you require, this 260 is the actual production hours required. But if you want to get 260 production hours where the efficiency is only 95%, you need to pay for a higher rate. Okay. Therefore, actual overtime hours payable at 95% efficiency. How will you find it out? This is 260 divided by 95 percentage. That will give you how much? 260 divided by 0.95, that is 273.68. 273.68. And here it is 1030 divided by 0.95. That will be 1084.21. Are you getting? Therefore, overtime payable how much should be the overtime? Overtime will be 145% of 110. We have already calculated that to be how much we have calculated? 159.50. Okay, 159.50. So that will be overtime payable at 110 into 145 percentage, that is equal to rupees 159.50 per hour. Okay, so 273.68 into 159.50, that will give you how much? 273.68 into 159.5, 43,652 rupees. 43,652 here. And what about here? Into 159.50, so that will give you 1084.21 into 159.5, 1,72,931. 1,72,931. So tell me, what will be the total? The total overtime payable will be 43,652 plus 1,72,931. So rupees 216,583. Is it clear? So what is your conclusion? The conclusion will be total overtime wages payable will be rupees 216,583. However, savings on account of inventory holding how much? The savings will be savings due to JIT. What was the savings? 257,600. Okay, 257. Therefore, net savings on implementation of JIT will be how much? 257,600 minus 216,583, that is rupees 41,017. Okay, so what should be your recommendation? What is the question? The question, as a chief accountant, you are requested to comment on the managing director's view. Okay, so what would be your advice? Recommendation will be from financial perspective. Financial perspective, implementation of JIT will result in a net savings of rupees 41,017 to KPL. Therefore, it is recommended to be implemented. Okay, but friends, listen here. Purely from financial perspective, it is recommended. But when you implement such a system, you have to consider other non-financial factors also, because JIT is not just some small changes which is making. It is something which will affect your entire organization structure. Okay, so you can write, however, as JIT is a comprehensive system of production management, production and material management, affecting entire entity, operations of the entity. Operations of the entity. The management may also consider other factors before implementing JIT. Okay, such factors include. What are the factors to be included? I will just give you a synopsis of those. 1. Availability of materials on time. Okay, then 2, lead time for supply to customers. What do you mean by lead time? Lead time is the time that the customer is prepared to wait once they places the order and for the delivery of the goods, within which you need to do this entire activity of getting the goods from the supplier, then manufacturing, delivering to the customer. So you just need to see how much days the customer is willing to wait, and how much time is required for your entire production cycle, including the delivery, to get over. Okay, if the customers are somebody who prefers cash and carry, that they merely come, take your product and goes. If that is the case, then you can't have a JIT system in its normal essence. You will have to modify it. Okay, so JIT system can be implemented only when you get a sort of lead time with the customer, and you can utilize that lead time for manufacturing these goods and delivering the goods to the customers. Okay, so lead time for supply to customers. Next, elimination of all activities such as material inspection, then quality checking, etc. will etc. should not affect the quality of the products. Okay, so proper care has to be taken. Okay, then improve the quality of the processes and the efficiency of machines. Efficiency of machines. Okay, then next, efficiency of workforce. It's very important. Okay, now next is, if JIT is implemented properly, KPL will have various other benefits also. Okay, such as elimination of various waste cost, then elimination of various overhead cost, then what else? Then you can say higher quality product, leading to better brand value and opportunity to making a opportunity to charge what? Premium prices for the customers. Okay, so these factors also to be considered for the purpose before implementing the JIT. Clear? Okay. Now, next we have one more case study. Case study number 3.8. But I want this case study to be tried out by each one of you individually. Okay, so for the time being, I am not taking this in the class. Okay, in the last class also, chapter also, I have left out one or two case studies, which I want you all to try your own. You read the question and try to correlate the concepts which you have learned and apply those concepts to these case studies given. Okay, and later on we will discuss these case studies in the class. Don't worry. Okay, so there are two advantages. One thing, you will be able to apply your concepts to the case study, so it will be sort of practice for you. Second thing, we can save some time in the class due to because you are coming already prepared with the case study. So I can, when we discuss it in the class, I can go a little bit faster and I can save time. Or I can use some other modes to give you the answer. Okay, so I'm not taking question number. I think it was, what was the question? The question number 3.8. I am just leaving now. Okay, we will take it later.